welcome to SIM-PAC Live. I'm your host, Geoff Matthews, and today we talk to Darren Fleming, author of Mindset Mastery and an executive mentor. Welcome, Darren.
G'day, Geoff. Great to be here.
Thank you. Thank you for coming on. Now, you made a comment the other day. I saw it online, caught my eye, and you quoted Treasurer Jim Chalmers. This is straight after the election one.
Yep.
And as you said, he didn't mince his words. He said the biggest threat to our economy is productivity. And it was your comment that caught my eye, because your comment to that was, you said, and I'll quote you so I don't get it wrong, you said the real productivity crisis isn't poor time management, it's poor attention management. And yeah. I'd like you to expand on that and take us through that as an executive coach and as somebody who specializes in trying to get us to pay better attention.
Yeah, the whole world is in an attention deficit. How often have you read an email, got to the bottom of it and realised, I don't remember a word of what I just read? Or you go online to look up some supplier pricing, and all of a sudden you realise I'm on the newspaper. I've seen a couple of videos on YouTube, or you're booking some accommodation, and you go deep into looking at reviews for hotels you'll never stay at.
Yes,
because we do not control our attention. We've just forgotten how to do it. If you look around the country, instances of adult ADHD are through the roof. People aren't able to control what's going on inside their head. They go to the doctor, and the doctor goes, well, there is this pill that can help. It's not a problem with the brain per se. It's a problem with your ability to control your attention. If you go to the gym and you can't lift the weight, you don't go to the doctor and say, hey, give me some steroids so I can lift the weights. No, you go to the gym and practice controlling your attention. That's what we got to do.
Right. And this attention deficit that you're talking about, it's manifested itself in low productivity. Our productivity is going backwards, but our hours of work is going up. And this is not a short-term thing. This has been happening since computerization. Some could say 2007 when they invented the iPhone, and then 2009 when YouTube came online.
I tell you what, you're not far wrong. I remember when Kevin Rudd was elected the leader of the ALP, John Howard was still the Prime Minister, and Rudd was standing up in Parliament. So this is 2005, 2006, 20 years ago. And he was saying, Mr. Howard, what are you doing to increase productivity in this country? Yeah. Because we were riding the minerals boom, and we had billions in the bank simply because we were digging stuff out of the ground and shipping it overseas. Since then, it's got worse. Our attention's got worse. iPhones have come in. We are in the attention economy, which is, we have got some of the world's biggest ever companies, like your Apples, your Googles, Facebooks, etc. They have got literally tens of thousands of computer programmers and PhD psychologists
competing for our attention.
And they are tweaking things to within an inch of its life to draw our attention in. Yes. So the fact that we are failing is not, the fact that we're getting caught in this is not a failing of ours. We're just fighting against a machine that's just too powerful.
And I read an article a little bit a while ago now, but it was looking sort of at computerization and what computerization is. Because I went to school in the 70s. Yes, I'm that old. And we were saying back, we're going to work 3 days a week. The robots and computers will do everything. And what happened over a long period, white collar workers went from working 38 hours a week to 42 and a half hours a week. And we didn't actually get any more productive. And that is also part of being available, electronically being available. So we take our work home. We're sitting online in our work applications doing stuff. Take us through how you help companies and organizations and people, A, reclaim some of that attention, but B, how to also switch it off. Yeah.
So to do that, to explain how it works, we first need to look at what people have been doing for the last 100 years, 200 years, whatever, to keep their attention. So you can read books like Atomic Habits and, Tiny Habits from Milton Fogg, and they all talk about habits and discipline. But habits are for the unconscious, and discipline is a cage that keeps freedom at bay. James Clear, in his book, Atomic Habits, says habits are a series of unconscious behaviours you perform without thinking. Now, just let that settle in.
Yeah.
They're unconscious behaviours you perform without thinking. Do you want people on your mine site, on your construction site, performing without thinking? This is how operator error occurs and people go home without an arm, because they're not paying attention. Discipline is a cage that keeps freedom at bay. Discipline is about ensuring you don't do what you do want to do, or do what you don't want to do, which is like, who wants to live in a place like that, where you are constantly being told by yourself, because you've got discipline and willpower, that you will not do what you want to do? That's terrible. And it's why the solutions that people have had of Atomic Habits and Tiny Habits and all the other books, why people still struggle. What people think around being productive, you're familiar with the state of flow, I assume?
Yes, I'm a former elite athlete. I'm very aware of the state of flow.
Flow is our natural state. It's not seen as a natural state. It's perceived and thought of as a supernatural state, that we need to do things to get into flow. We need to have good discipline. We need to have good habits. We need to use willpower. But that's terrible. Discipline is a cage that keeps freedom at bay. Habits are for the unconscious. Willpower always fails. So if we need to rely on these things to get into flow, of course we're never going to get into flow. But what if we were looking at the whole problem from the wrong angle? What if flow wasn't a supernatural state? What if it was our natural state? And the reason we're not in flow is we do things that take us out of flow. If we simply stop doing those things, we'll remain in flow. And that's what I teach. Yeah, the best way to describe it is you get yourself out of your own way.
Yeah.
But that's just the way we describe it. What is actually happening is your mind is completely present. You are 100% in the moment. And because of that, your mind hasn't left. Your mind is actually there. I was an elite athlete as well. I represented Australia in sailing for a number of times. And when you're in that moment, and you can see this in football teams, teams that just are in the zone, each member is in flow, they will kick the football to an empty spot, and someone that they hadn't even seen had been running to that spot, and they just happened to get there at the right time to take the mark and then go off and kick the goal. It is, there's no way that you could coordinate that if it wasn't from a state of flow. Flow is actually our natural state. Yeah. Look at kids when they play. They are in a state of flow. They're just playing. They're just focused on what it is they're doing. They're lost in what it is that's going on. Happy days. In our sporting careers, so if you look at books like Flow from Chicks at Me High and Stealing Fire by Coulter, they're talking about getting into states of flow. And you need to have this set up. You need to have the environment set up. You need to have all your tools set up and blah, blah, blah. And you put all these things and you should get into flow. From my experience of sport, potentially yours, and you look at kids, they don't worry about the environment. They don't worry about what's there. They just get into the job and start doing it because that's their natural state.
What about, I was CEO of a number of companies, and I got some wise counsel from another CEO who said, your job as CEO is to find what people are naturally talented at and get them to do that. And I suppose that just fits in with your theory of flow. Is that something you look at?
Yes and no. It's certainly true. Play to your strengths. The saying of get into flow is not what I perceive it as. It's let's stop doing things that take us out of flow. To understand the way we operate, to get through the day, we've got three things: our brain, our body, and our awareness of the two. Brain and body, fairly easy to understand. The awareness, some people are not quite sure what that means. If you're a Christian, you'd call it your soul. If you're a First Nations person, you'd call it your spirit. An atheist would call it consciousness. That's just what it is. It's that part of us that knows we're here. When we have the brain, body, and awareness all focused on the one thing, so the brain wants to do this task, or the body wants to do this task, or the awareness wants to do this task, when they're all focused on the one task, we're in flow. But what happens is the brain, for whatever reason, doesn't want to do this report. And therefore it starts generating cognitions of I'd rather be on the weekend or doing this, or what conversation I had last night, or next week I got this sales meeting, I want to prepare for that. And it takes us out of flow. Or the body doesn't want to sit down and it gets restless and wants to move and go get a coffee or go to the toilet or click a pen if it's old school. When we're in flow, they're all working together. Now, the problem we have in our world, and this can be traced back to Descartes back in the 1600s, who was the first dualist, who said the brain and the body are separate entities. The soul and the body are separate entities, because he didn't want to be crucified by the church for cutting up bodies to under this guise of science. So he said to the church, the mind is, the body sins, so it must be human. The mind cannot talk to God, so therefore it must be spiritual and religious. Therefore, that's your world. I'll take the body, and everyone was happy. And we split. And it's really only the last 50 years that the medicine has actually gone, oh, maybe they're related. So what happens is when we can get the brain and the body to be servants of the awareness, we remain in flow, because the awareness says, I need to do this job. And the brain says, okay, put cognitions towards doing the job. And the body goes, okay, sit down and get ready to do the job. But until we show the brain and body they are the servants of the awareness, if they don't wish to do the task, they will run 1,000,000 miles. And that's where people go, I've got ADHD.
Do you think that, the body's not getting in tune and is restless and wants to get up because we haven't fed it right, or we haven't exercised it right and looked after it?
Well, that's not my area of expertise. I'm just looking at what I see online. No, we're not exercising enough. The food we're eating is atrocious. If you look at the work of Dr. Robert Lustig, I follow him on LinkedIn and also YouTube. Just look at this guy and what he talks about the food that we're ingesting. If you want to get rid of metabolic syndrome, which is diabetes, heart attack, blood pressure, all those sort of things, it's caused by the diet. Now, because we've got a terrible diet, we don't have the energy to exercise.
Yeah.
So it's all together, but that's not my area of expertise. People do need vestibular stimulation. Some people need it more than others. My wife works with children who are neurodivergent, and some of these kids at school can't sit down to pay attention. They come to her for a day and she knows how to give them the vestibular stimulation they need. And then what happens, they get that stimulation, then they can sit down and do the work.
In terms of productivity of what we're doing in Australia, what would you recommend, say, if there's a CEO, people watching this, what do you recommend to get better productivity from your workforce? What are your top recommendations?
Teach people to concentrate. If you've ever got to the bottom of an email and gone, I don't remember a word of that, the minute that you spent on that is lost productivity. It's just that simple. If you've ever found yourself, gee, I spent the last 10 minutes reading the newspaper, oh gosh, I should have been working. That's 10 minutes of lost productivity. Doesn't matter how many, Slack or whatever. That's, another app, another widget is not going to stop your attention being taken away. So what people do, what bosses do, what HR says is, okay, we'll have a policy around mobile phones, no social media at work, put them in the drawer, or lock them outside there. And we put the Pomodoro technique and the focus time, and it shuts down all of the apps, etc. And that's good. But what happens is I do all those things, but where's my thoughts? Oh, I wonder if someone's liked my post. I know I can't access it, but I'll try and work here. But mentally, I'm still thinking what's going on with the post. I'm thinking, I wish I could go out to the internet to check. No, I've got to focus. We haven't corrected the problem. All we've done is put a cage around people to keep freedom at night.
We've actually diverted their attention into something that they can't access, and they're worried about it.
We've them in like a bumper, when you go bowling with kids and make sure the ball gets to the bottom, they put the rails up, and the ball's just bouncing off the rails.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing with people. That's the way I play bowling as well.
Do you see leadership from the top of companies, taking workers with them in belief of what they're doing is worthwhile or is for the greater good or helping the company? That, because if the workforce are not bought into what they're doing is important, then their attention is going to be, easily distracted somewhere else. I mean, do you see leadership at the top improving that throughout the whole workforce?
Oh, well, it's some companies are going to be absolutely amazing at it, and some companies are going to be completely terrible at it. And it comes down to the individual at the top of the ladder saying, well, it's obvious, it's common sense we should do this, and just thinking everyone should get on board. But everyone's common sense is just their version of the world, and they wonder why other people don't follow their version of the world. So in some companies it's strong, and others it's not.
Any other suggestions? Any other quick fixes or ideas that you've got for people wanting to, improve productivity, maybe even lessen the hours that the workforce is working, so they can get maybe better health outcomes and be better at work the next day?
Absolutely. There's a couple of things that I'd point towards. The first is, I love the saying, there will be no peace in the world until every individual has peace in their mind.
Yeah.
And you look at that and you go, oh, that's so true. If I'm peaceful in here, I'm actually not going to get really overly angry about what you're doing, because I can see what's going on for you and you're not at peace, so I'm not going to add to your discomfort. And I think that follows into, we're not going to have any productivity increases in our workplace until each individual can control their attention. Because it doesn't matter what money we spend on automation, what AI things we put in place. If there is a person involved, whether that's going around sweeping the floor to ensure that the robots can operate, or hitting the right button to ensure what GPT runs, if the individual is not focused and paying attention, they're going to hit the wrong button. They're going to sweep the floor incorrectly. They're going to make the wrong decision.
Last question because it's been an interesting chat. So if I'm wanting to improve my attention, what's your suggestion? I could read your book, which I've bought your book actually, and other than reading your book, what's the thing that you think could help improve their own attention?
Become aware of your awareness. Where is your awareness going? Have you ever met someone who's tried to meditate and they said, oh, meditation doesn't work for me? I tried to sit down and what happened is my mind just went nuts. The voice just wouldn't shut up. Potentially for the first time in their life, that person was aware of their attention. They were aware of their awareness. It wasn't that meditation wasn't working. It's that they didn't like what they found when they did meditate.
Yes.
So if you want to improve your ability to pay attention, you need to pay attention to your attention. And that's what the reclaiming focus methodologies are all about, showing people how to reclaim their attention. And the benefit that this drives, over a 3-week period, I was able to increase productivity in a sporting club by 13% in 3 weeks.
Yeah.
We're talking about a clay target shooting club.
Yes.
Who go out and they shoot at targets.
Yes, I'm a New Zealand representative in Olympic skeet shooting.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I read that article about yours. Yes.
So these are just amateur shooters on the weekend. We got them a 13% increase in their productivity accuracy over 3 weeks by showing them how to quiet the attention in their mind.
Yes.
I've had people turn around and say, Darren, this has just made my life. I'm sleeping better. Because the ability to sleep is the ability to pay attention to nothing.
Yes.
If you want to go to sleep, you've got to concentrate on nothing. And most people can't concentrate on nothing because their mind is just going so fast and so loud
Yes.
that you've got to be able to disconnect from it.
Yes.
So if you want to be more productive, pay attention to your attention.
Sorry, one more question. Do you think that it's how long, state of flow, we know once you get in flow, hours can tick by, but do you think there's a limited amount of high value attention that you can give something, and then you need to be playful with your mind and give it a rest and take it out and do something else with it before you come back? Do you have the sense? I find that for me, that is what works. That I've got to, and in Olympic skeet shooting, we do that. We have these periods of intense concentration, and then we've got to switch off.
I think the limiting factor is the physiology. So when I'm running a training program in organisations, I'm in flow for the whole day.
Yeah.
I can read the room. I know what's coming. My internal chatter is pretty much quiet. My body's doing as it wants. And I get to the end of a day, I'm completely pumped. It just fills me full of energy, but my body is completely drained. I've run 4 marathons back to back. I'm just physically exhausted, but mentally going. So the answer to your question is, how physically fit, how match fit are you to sustain that flow?
Yes.
The greater the fitness of the body, the more the mind can go.
I just wonder about, our 8-hour work days and, 10-hour work days of your white collar worker, and we spend so much time, and whether we're better off working 6 hours a day and taking those other 4 hours and using them in some other way to make sure we get 6 hours of high quality attention.
Absolutely. If you pre-COVID, there were a lot of studies of companies going to the 4-day work week. Keep your 5-day pay, just work over 4. Productivity in those companies actually rose because everyone was going, shit, I don't have Friday, so I better work now. And they stopped the social chit chatter in the room, and they just did their job because that's what they were paid to do.
Darren, thank you for coming on the show. It was a great discussion. We covered a lot of ground. If people are interested in contacting you, they can contact you through darrenfleming.com.au. You can either get in touch with Darren and have a personal discussion, buy one of his books. I did. It was a great read. But thank you so much.